With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I am so excited today. I've got author and photographer Johanna Siegmann with me. So welcome, Johanna.
Hey, how are you?
So we've been off camera talking for like 10 minutes. And it dawned on me, I was like, we should probably record some of this.
Okay, I'm ready. It's just so much fun to talk to.
Well, you know, you've got to have a little bit of rapport building, I think, before you jump right into. If it was just an interview, maybe not. But I like to have a conversation, and that's hard to do if you're just jumping right in.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for you.
Well, let's start this way, because I absolutely want to talk about the book. Okay. Which is really exciting, and it's got some actors in there that we're friendly with, so that was kind of exciting seeing that too. But before we do that, let's talk about you. What got you into writing? I know you're a photographer. What got you into that? You know, kind of give us your background and what got you to this point.
Sure. So I am at this point in my life primarily a photographer. I used to be a writer. I have a background in performing, theater, directing, and writing, and did that for several decades, over 30 years doing that. But in 2007, I had breast cancer, and the chemo altered how my brain processes things. So I found myself unable to write anymore. The way that I had written, I just could not get to the words fast enough to write down the storyline that my brain was telling me. And there was a long period of very frustration and depression until I realized that if I could think of the image, if I got a picture in my head, I could hold on to that single picture and tell my story through the picture. So I've had a lifetime love of photography. My father was an amateur photographer. I got my first camera at 10, and of course, it was a Kodak Instamatic, you know, the little square, of course. But I never really, I always took pictures. I took pictures of everything. You know, here I am, here they are, this is what I ate, we went here, we did that. And I never really got into photography, which to me is more about storytelling, until my bout with cancer. So in a sense, and I always view life in this way, no matter how great the obstacle, there is always something to be gained from it. And in my case, my breast cancer led to photography, and here we are.
Yeah, I think that's a really great story and kind of inspirational, because you took this negative and this difficulty doing something that you were good at and turned it into a positive, and you found something new that you're good at.
Absolutely. And I think it really helps to reframe it from negative and positive to challenging and easy, because I think, you know, everybody is faced with challenges every day in their life, and it's how you approach it, and whether it's the insurmountable mountain or is it a detour. And that's what I called it. When I was diagnosed, I said, okay, well, this was a detour I did not expect to take, versus, oh my God, my life's in danger. I never thought of my life in danger. And we'll get into this later about energy and manifesting and visualizing, because that is the core of my life, is to visualize what I want. And honestly, that my photography is the perfect example of that. If I can visualize it in my head, there it is on the page or the screen. It is. Almost every picture in the book is, if you could take a picture of my brain, that's what it looked like in the book.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. My mother went through breast cancer and chemo back in the early 90s.
Oh my God.
She said the same thing. Yeah. Is that, you know, she struggled doing some of the things, and mostly things that required a little bit of thought that she never struggled with before. And it took her years to kind of navigate through that and kind of get to a point where she was comfortable.
I can write factual stuff like emails and stuff like that, but storytelling has never returned to me
it wasn't the cancer, it's the chemo.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So it saved my life and it rerouted me. It changed the course of my life. So
well, yeah, I think that's so terrific. So the book is in good company. Let's talk about that for just a little bit. You know, what are you a pet lover? That's probably what I should ask.
You mean it's not intuitively obvious?
It seems like to me like this would be kind of a miserable project if you didn't like pets.
You know, I would say that I am living the life right now because yes, I love photography. I love animals. I love photographing people. I would categorize myself primarily as a portrait photographer. But like all photographers, if your camera's in your hand, you're happy to take pictures of no matter what it is and no matter what the style. But for me, it's about capturing that special something that makes people them, the unique them, you know. And that's the case that I did with these photographs, because these are pet portraits, but they're not your average pet portrait. They're relationship portraits. They're a little bit voyeuristic. They capture the connection between the human and their pet. So they are really radically different because I hope you'll share some of the pictures because it's really hard for people to visualize how different these pictures really are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. What gave you the idea to do this? Because you're basically catching people, you know, well-known people in most cases with their pet, but not just like standing there with their pet. You're really capturing kind of the essence of the relationship between the two.
Exactly. So we remember in the green room when we were talking about how people ask me the same question over and over. This is one of those. And that's fine. I love this story. This is a great story.
It's a good story.
I was asked by a friend of mine to do her headshots. This was just after I started doing photography seriously. And I hadn't found my niche. You know, I was doing everything. I was doing architecture. I was doing headshots. I was doing street photography. I was doing it all. You know, just trying to get a taste of all the different options. The poo-poo platter of photography. And so we were finishing up her headshots, and her dog walked in and sat at her feet, and she said, "Hey, my dog is ancient. I don't think he's going to be around much longer. Can you do a portrait of us?" And I said, "Sure, of course." Yes. So the dog was so arthritic, he couldn't sit up, and she was sitting in a chair, and I just couldn't compose an image that did anything good. So I said, "Why don't you just get down on the floor with him and you know, so that you're closer together." And I got down on the floor with them as well because, you know, for the to be at the right angle. And as she's getting in close to him, and the dog leans into her and she starts, and I could see in my lens, I could feel the love, I could feel the connection. And I had that epiphany where people talk about the clouds parted, the angels sang, sun rays beamed down. I thought, oh my God, this is what I want to do. This whatever this is, and I didn't know how to define it at the time. So that was from that humble beginning. I had that moment of clarity where I realized the thing that attracted me, aside from the subjects and stuff like that, was that I really wanted to capture that energetic thing that happens between two beings that love each other and are companions and are there for each other and do silly things together. And the photographs in the book range from really exuberant, full of energy, like the cover photo of Dave Scott, to really those little tiny tender moments, like Ed Begley Jr.'s picture. So where they're really small, but that's them. It's what they do together. And everybody has a very different relationship with their pets. So it's infinite. I mean, depending on the dog, how big, how small, how old, how young, is it an active dog? Is it a blind dog? it is endless, and depending on the person and whether they're sedentary or active, or is this a dog that goes on bike rides with them, or is this a dog that is a couch potato and watches football with them on the couch? It's always different. And I strive to find the concept, and we'll talk about concepts in a minute, but I strive to find the concept that captures the essence of their particular relationship.
Yeah, I love that. How long did it take you with each person to get those shots? Because you wouldn't think they would always just happen instantaneous.
Well, so I'm so glad you asked. So the process is a very lengthy process before we even get. I never show up somewhere with just my camera and my lights, ever. Once the person has expressed interest in being in having their portrait done by me, then there's long intake for me to come up with a concept. And so I ask a bunch of questions, what sort of stuff. If they're notable people, you generally sort of know what they're actors or their sports or their something. So you generally know what their public life is, but I'm more interested in the life that they have with their animals. So I ask, relevant questions about that. And then I just let all that information percolate, and that miracle of the universe and creativity, it just plops into my head. And then I share my thoughts with them. And once they approve the concept, so they're participants. There's no surprises here. They know what I'm going to photograph when I show up. So once I share that with them, we set the shoot date, and I show up, and the time from the moment I drive up to the moment I drive away is about an hour, sometimes less. So
yeah, that's not terrible. That's not a terrible amount of time, but you're setting it up ahead of time, so that probably helps the process.
Well, the concept. So so I know what I'm going for. I know what I'm looking so it's in my head. So I know what I'm shooting, right? Yeah. But there are two great unknowns. The first one is I've never been to this place. Where in this place am I going to shoot? Is there space for me to shoot in this location? Is there something that satisfies the concept? And there always is. I managed to. There was one place that was so tiny there was no room for the lights, so I used natural light. That's how tiny it was. So I always find the location. But the second unknown is how the pet will react to me. And that's where that energy thing is, where I talked to you about in the green room again.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So yeah, how do you navigate that? Because some pets, they just love anybody being around. But other pets, they're not a fan of people they don't know being around.
Well, so okay. Two parts to that. The first one is I had somebody who wanted me to do a picture of their cat, and they said that the problem is that when the doorbell rings, he hides. I'm like, well, that would be an insurmountable obstacle. And they said, what do we do? And I said, well, he was nearby, so I said, why don't I drop by and see what happens? So I dropped on by. You open the door, the cat comes out and is rubbing between my legs, and he's looking down at the cat, going, that's not my cat. I don't know whose cat this is, but this cat has never done that with anybody. So I said, we'll be fine. And so what I do, I'm the sort of person who, I'm a little bit like the Deanna Troi. Speaking of Star Trek, I'm like the Deanna Troi of pet photographers. I'm very empathic. There's this, I can literally physically feel the energy of other beings, humans, animals. I can almost tell exactly what you're thinking and feeling, and it's no different with pets. So when I arrive to a location, the person already knows my first order of business is for me to get calibrated with the pet, and so I'll meet them first, and then I work to calibrate my energy to theirs, not the other way around, because it's really important for me and for the process of shooting this photo that the animal is themselves, not performing for me, not excited that I'm some new toy to be with, but for them to be them with the person. And I'm just kind of there to capture that moment. And
how do you match your energy to theirs? How does that work?
I don't know that I can put that into words. It's, how I guess it's sort of like a meditation process where you really have to not be in your head. You have to really be in your body, and you really have to surrender your ego. You have to be, I would call it in a reception mode versus a transmission mode. You open your heart, you let go of your thoughts, and you just allow the energy from the other being to reach you. And I can sense that. And you know, as a matter of fact, especially with dogs are both the easiest and the hardest to shoot. The dogs, because dogs are pure love. They're just all emotion. You know, it's like I love you, and so it's very easy for me to connect with them. But they're also their attention spans like
Right.
and so once I set up, I literally have between 30 seconds and a minute of shooting with the animal, because all of a sudden it's like swirl, and then, you know, off they go.
Well, so is that something that you discovered you had kind of instinctually, or was that something you had to learn to do?
I would say almost completely instinctually. Nobody showed me how to do this. And again, the whole thing about energy and the combination of visualizing and manifesting the imagery in my head, and also my ability to connect emotionally, energetically, with the animals. That was an organic development. Nobody told me how to do it. It just kind of sort of happened. And I suppose I have a very good sense of communication in terms of my vision and my intentions, and I'm very genuine. I go in there if I like with you. I said, "I'm my God, you have beautiful eyes." So I have very little filters in terms of if I like something, I'm going to let people know I really like it. And if, when I do my photography in the shoots, I've tried to control it. I finally gave up, but I'm very emotive when I shoot. You know, and of course it can be very distracting, so I recognize that and I apologize for it, but also the subject knows that they're doing a great job. They know that we're on the right track. I always show them what I'm shooting so that they can adjust and they can see where we're going with the image. So yeah, I think it's a combination of common sense and then an innate skill that I discovered organically.
Yeah, I love that. It's, you know, if you run into somebody that is very positive and they kind of emote that positivity and stuff, it does tend to rub off on you a little bit. So it's, to me, it's kind of like taking that type of situation, but you fine-tuned it to where you're able to do it a little bit better, because most of the time you don't realize that that's happening.
Yeah,
it just kind of
yes and no. We go back to the talking about intention and talking about energy, and there are really only two ways of going through life, and one is through your ego and one is through your heart. And everything in life is, whether you believe in it or not, energy begets energy. You get back what you put out. So if you approach life through your heart, through love and kindness and generosity and support, that's what comes back to you energetically. If you are someone who goes out there with suspicion and malice and hatred and judgment, that's what comes back to you. So one of the things, and I guess we'll talk about this a little bit later, but one of the things that these photographs, every time I show these photographs, people will go, "Oh," and they put their hand on their heart. "Oh," and because these photos touch your heart. And I want these images to remind people that that's where we should be living from. That's where we should be moving through life from a place of love, from a place of kindness and generosity. And so when I arrive at a house, I'm already in that place. When they open the door, that is how I greet them. So I've been told when I've set up, you know, these sessions that, you know, this person tends to be a little persnickety, or, you know, that, and I have never, ever had that in every person who opens the door is, I get returned the love that I'm putting out. There's this excitement, there's this generosity, there's a eagerness to participate.
Well,
and
people love their pets too.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well,
that problem. They like to show them off.
Oh, you mean it's not just me?
No.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's like I like animals. I don't love animals.
Mhm.
That's me.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of us. But those that love animals, I mean, they love.
Yes, they really do.
You know, my son's a dog owner, and I mean that's his thing. You know, he just absolutely adores not just his dogs, all dogs.
Yeah, but but we all feel that way about something.
That's right.
It may not be dogs, it might be cars, it might be you know, space gadgets, it might be, you know, classic some people collect guitars or sneakers. It's like whatever the thing is that makes your heart, you know, go boom, that's the thing. Whatever gets you to connect to that place in your heart.
That's right.
Whenever you're in your head and you're angry or disappointed or fearful or whatever, any, you know, negative energy zapping place you might be in, touch base with that thing that takes you to your heart, and then try again, because and not everybody likes animals. I don't get it, but okay, I love animals. I do love animals, and they all do it for me. My friends know that if we go for a walk and we come up with an animal, mostly usually dogs, people walking their dogs, we're going to stop and deal with the dog. It's just, that's the way it is.
Right. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, nothing's wrong. When you come from a place of love, there's no wrong. There is no wrong.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I think it's such a fascinating book. It's called In Good Company. And when is it coming out?
The professional, the official launch date is February 20th, which you may or may not know is Love Your Pet Day. And come on, can we be honest? Who doesn't love their pet, right? So if you have somebody who has a pet who's nuts about their pet, this would be a great gift. It's available in pre-order now from all online booksellers globally. You can get this anywhere in the world.
Be a good Valentine's Day present.
And I think so too, you know, but I felt we discussed it, and since this is really, it's not between people, it's between people and their pets.
That's right.
We felt that and you know, it was a little cluttered on Valentine's Day, so we thought, you know, just a couple of days later, let's keep celebrating the love. And this one is specific to pets.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you like with me, my son, if you have a family member that just absolutely loves their pet, I mean, it's the perfect book.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know?
It is because it shows the love for the pet. It is because it doesn't just show someone with their pet. And there is absolutely, again, I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody's work, because there's so much beautiful pet portraiture out there. It's just not what I do. You know, it's not just a representation of someone with their pet. This is about the relationship of the person with their pet. Those little tiny silly moments of people interacting with their pets on a regular basis. Nothing unique. I don't have them learn tricks for this. That's part of the intake. What is it that they do reliably on a daily basis that we can elicit for this shot? And then I build around that.
Yeah, I think that is terrific and kind of unique. I love the idea. I mean, we've all seen, you know, photography books of animals, but I don't think we've ever seen this type that really captures the love between the pet and the owner.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've been talking about it, but I should probably show a few of the pictures so that we can
go ahead.
We can get an idea.
Yeah,
because it's hard
because I
to
think, you know,
hard to picture it.
it is hard to picture, and we could talk about it till we're, you know, ancient and the internet dies, but people won't be able to visualize what we're talking about unless you show them.
That's right. That's right. So I'm gonna let's see. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. Can you see that one?
I can see that one. That's the
Yeah,
cover.
yeah. So that's your cover photo for In Good
Mhm.
Company. So who are we looking at there?
So this is Dave Scott. Dave Scott. So I wanted to briefly say something why I say notable people with their pets instead of famous people with their pets.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
not everybody in the book is famous, like, you know, movie stars and stuff like that, which just happen to have very visible jobs. Notable people are those who have reached the epitome of their particular field. And there are lots of fields of like astronomy and dance and cabaret and sports. There are all these different types of fields of endeavor where we may not know who they are, but when you read, all their bios are in the book so that people can learn about them as well. But you mentioned their name in their field, and they're like, you know, they're at the top of the heap. And
Right.
Dave Scott is a hip hop choreographer, dancer, producer. His credits include Dancing with the Stars and So You Think You Can Dance. A couple of movies. I think he did Stomp or Stomp in the Yard or something along those lines. And this is his dog Capote.
I mean, look how happy both of them are.
And the energy, the exuberance of them.
I mean, it's like he's dancing with his dog.
Well, that was the intention. Thank you. And when I first met Capote, that's exactly what he did. He did that with me. He jumped, and he jumped so high. This one, I think I caught him on the way down, but he jumped so high, he almost came up to my waist. I'm like, can we get him to do that again? And then it says, oh, just try and stop him.
Yeah, I love that may be my favorite picture in the book. I mean, it's terrific.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can.
Fun. Yeah.
And
then the other thing is this one with that picture was actually taken on location in the dance studio. I normally go to people's homes. So the dance
kind of looks like a dance studio floor.
I know the dance studio had this orange wall, and I had asked them to bring wardrobe. And when I do that, there's just no way for me to know what they're going to pull from their closet. So when he first pulled it out, I'm thinking, oh, none of this is going to work. And then it worked perfectly. So.
Oh my gosh, it did. When you took that picture, did you know right then that was the one, or did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I normally do. I can see it getting close to the image in my head that we talked about, and then it's just a couple of tweaks, and boom. You know, almost always when I take the picture, I know it's the one. I'm sometimes surprised when I go through the shoot, but I'm not a photographer who takes thousands of pictures. I know that's the Ed Begley shot. Yeah.
Yeah, so Ed's a good friend of ours.
Right?
He's such a loving person. You know, he's very reserved at times. You know, he's got a good sense of humor. But I love this shot. I think it really, you know, I don't know his dog, but it really tells you about Ed.
So his dog Bunny, not a bunny, but a dog called Bunny, likes to work. So Ed is known for his environmental activism,
absolutely,
and all that stuff. And he has this gorgeous backyard where he does all this gardening, and Bunny helps. And I thought that this would be a great place. And it was just a moment. They were there together. And Bunny turned to me at the exact moment that he gave her a kiss on the head. And that was it. It was just, that's it. That's them. That's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the fact that you caught him, you know, working out in his garden, because he's got like his entire house is eco-friendly.
Yeah.
Like extremely eco. When we were talking on the podcast, his picture got a little bit fuzzy, and he said, "Hold on for a second." And he goes and he cranks something up or something, and because he's creating his own
Yes.
his own energy, his own power and stuff.
Yeah.
And sure
Yeah.
enough, it
Yeah.
fixed the picture. He's
And
an
he's got, yeah, and he's
amazing
got
person.
electric cars now and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, he's really, really amazing. My experience with all of these people, I brought my A game and they bested me. They were all just immensely generous and kind and patient and exuberant and followed direction. It's been, honestly, like I said, I'm living the life. It is such a joy to work with these people and their pets and create these images that I hope
I mean, the
inspire people.
pictures are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really funny. From the first time I ever did a planned photo, unlike the Epiphany image, the first time I ever did a planned image was a man with his chicken. And when I showed it, that's my first picture ever of that kind. The reaction from everybody was, "You need to do a book of these." Yeah. We're talking over 10 years ago. This book has been 10 years in the making. It's taken a long time because scheduling is, if people want to know what was the hardest thing about making this book, it was scheduling.
Because you're dealing with people that they're very busy.
Yeah. So it's been,
which is another good aspect of this, because you're catching them in those more quiet moments.
Right.
And
right.
I think, as some are celebrities and we're fans of, it's interesting to see them in those moments, because that's like a glimpse that you don't get to see very often.
That's it.
And then you've got these other top of the field people that I think it's so interesting to see, those kind of type A personalities when they're a little more settled and just enjoying their pets, because those type of personalities, my wife's one, they don't settle very well.
And they don't take orders very well, right?
No. They do not.
when you talk, and you're talking about people who are used to being in charge, usually,
yes,
calling the shots. And in a fun anecdote with when I shot with Norman Lear, he said, he was asking me, well, what kind of photography do you do? And I said, I do people with their pets. He said, that wouldn't work for me. I don't like my pets. I'm like, oh, I have the perfect concept for you. So when I shared it with him, we immediately said, he says, I love it. Let's do it. And when I showed up at his house, he said, hey, I have another idea. And he starts to tell me about his concept. And here I am face to face with Norman Lear. And in my mind, I'm thinking, he's trying to direct me. Wait, it's my shoot. I have to tell Norman Lear no, So I didn't say no. What I said was, Norman, let's do my concept first, and then we'll do yours. And that's what we did. We shot his, and then when he looked at the resulting images, he goes, yours is much better than mine.
It's hard for them to give up a little bit of control.
Yeah, but to his credit, he saw immediately. He saw immediately that it wasn't an issue. It was just one of those funny moments where I went like, oh, yeah, no, Norman, no, we're gonna.
I love that, because he's probably not used to that, and he's like,
but here's the other thing, and it goes back to the energy, and that is, in order for people who are so empowered in their work and in their lives, to be vulnerable and surrender control to someone they've never met before, I need to inspire trust and confidence and I think it starts really early on. From the moment that I contact them, I send a link to my website, johannasiegmann.com, and they get to see how I did it. I'm getting good at this, right?
That was good.
Yeah.
Good.
And they can see examples of past people in pet portraits, because it's really important for them to see, like showing people now, because you can't conceive of what these are. Right. And I think when they see that, that already opens the door to trusting my vision. And then the process that I use to get the information, and then the sharing of all of that leads to increasing the confidence and trust in me and my work, so that by the time I show up with my energy and my heart open, there's a collaboration that's already underway, and they are already in the space. Nobody has said this to me. These are my assumptions. This is the story going on in my head, but that is the impression I have from my end of the interaction.
I love it, because if you showed up and were cranky or bossy or whatever negative energy,
I'm always bossy. Just ask.
Well, but it's the way you do it, though. If you didn't do it that way, you're gonna cause that. You're gonna spread that negative energy,
right?
And that's gonna cause those photos probably not to be as good.
Energy is contagious, and you're absolutely right. If I have arrived when they are scattered, like, the phone call just ended, things are happening, and where they're like, and it is a choice. It is a personal choice of me whether to stay in my energy with the love and the centered and the grounded, or get pulled into their space and their energy, and like, oh, all this stuff that has to happen, and where do I put the lights, and so it could go either way. And it really is, I don't want to call it the battle of the energies, but it really is about trying to create the space that makes it the optimum environment for creativity and to produce. So me going into their energy space won't do that. So I open my heart and allow them to experience my energy space. And it's worked every time. It's worked every time.
Has there ever been well, you said it worked every time. Has there ever been a time where it looked like maybe it wasn't going to work and you had to change tactics?
One of my very first shoots ever was of a friend of mine who had just adopted a rescue dog. And the dog, we had the concept, I knew what I was going to do, and the dog refused to be in the same room with me. So after 45 minutes of me trying to figure out, I said, well, it's not going to be possible to shoot this dog if he's not in the room with me. And I started to get a little bit panicky. I started to sense my composure, like, and it was with a friend, so it wasn't like the end of the world, but she says, oh, he's a lot more calm on the leash. And in my mind, I'm going, well, I'm sorry. It's like, come on the leash, and he just sat down, and we got the shot in like 3 shots. So in the 12 years that I've done that, I've been doing these photos. Only one session didn't work out.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not a bad ratio, right?
Was that more of a pet issue? Was the pet not behaving? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a combination of things. Okay, and it's the one time that I broke my ironclad one rule, and that is to not stress the animal. And I allowed myself, I did not hold my energy. I allowed myself to be pulled into I really want the shot. I want to get a shot of us, versus me saying the animal is not cooperating. I can't force it. And to try and do that would stress the animal. And so unfortunately I did not follow my own rules.
Right. I'm sure you learned from it though.
Oh yeah, no, I was crushed. I went home and cried because I committed my own cardinal sin, and I felt horrible because I could feel the animal stress. I could feel it. Like I told you, I'm like this empath, and the animal was just not happy, very stressed out, very, very miserable, and I left there in a very sorry state. So that'll never happen again. It was the one time, and it was a major lesson learned.
Yeah, that's a good lesson to learn.
It is, a painful, horrible. So sorry. I'm really sorry.
I want to look at one more because I love this one. Let's bring this
one. Oh,
Ed. Ed's another friend of ours, or was another friend of ours, and it just crushed him when we lost him. But I love this I love this photo because it's Ed.
It totally is Ed. And that's the other, so as important as it is to me to create something that's beautiful, artistic, as a,
There
whoops.
I was like, something weird's going on, but it corrected itself pretty quick, whatever it was. So we'll fix that in post.
Okay, right. I've heard, I've said that numerous times. We'll fix it. Yeah.
That's one of those things that I never thought I would have to say, but
Yeah.
when you podcast by Zoom, so you're not there in person, that's what happens.
That's what happens.
Any little
is it still
thing
recording
going
though?
on with, what's that?
Is it still recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it was. We just lost it for a half a second there.
It hiccuped. Yeah.
A little hiccup. So now we're back. But so we were talking about Ed.
Yes.
He's like, I'll tell you my quick Ed Asner story. This is how we met. We were doing a audio drama, and a good friend of ours was directing, producing it, and she'd asked if I could play myself. She was doing a little story based on something I had told her. She asked if I could play myself. I've never acted, terrible at it, but I was like, yeah, okay, it's me. I said the words, so I should be able to replicate that. Not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, right.
So the day of the taping, and we were doing this back during quarantine, so it was by Zoom. I get on there, and she said, "Oh, I've got an actor. Yeah, by the way, I've got an actor that wants to read with you." And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe that'll help me, because it'll be, instead of me just talking to the void, I've got somebody to talk to." Well, so on camera comes Ed Asner. I was like, well, maybe you could have given me a heads up.
Story, yeah.
Yeah, this legend coming on. Yeah. So that's how me and Ed met, and he is the funniest because he's just a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
He knows he is.
Yeah.
So he just goes with it, and he teases and he plays around, but then once you start filming, he's such a professional. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And it can happen just in a split second.
Yeah. That's what happened during this shoot is he is a recipient of so many awards. Yeah. And, that's his life. And I said, so when I proposed the concept to him, I said, how about you're coming back from one of these award shows, you're still in your tux, it's late, and you want to unwind a little with your best bud, maybe a stogie, glass of scotch, something. He goes, yeah, let's do it. So he knew it. He nailed it. We did. I swear, a lot of people, like I said, when they do pets and stuff like that, they tend to use the burst mode on their camera.
Yeah.
And they go home and they have to go through 1,000 photos. I don't have, life's too short. I know what I want. My average shoot rate for any given session is about 75 shots. That's it. That's and once I have it, we're done. I don't need to take any more. So with him, it was like maybe 10, 15 shots. It was real shot because he got it. He got it instantly. Yeah. He got the attitude. The dog did the head tilt. He did the head tilt.
No, it looked like his dog would have also had a cigar if he could have.
Yes, I keep hearing that. Everybody says, and I guess I could put it in Photoshop, but no, the dog. And that's another thing. I always shoot all the animals with integrity and with respect. I get the people to do really silly things. I got this grown man to get into a packing box. People will do anything for their pets. It's really remarkable, and I'm so honored and grateful that they trust me enough to do these things. But where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought. My gosh.
We were giving a dog a cigar. I know that.
Oh yeah, no, it's integrity, right? And so I don't make them do silly things or put costumes on them because that's not what the pet. They're not in these images to entertain us. They're in these images to illustrate the relationship between them. Now, having said that, there is a shot in it, I don't think you have it, where she's a cabaret singer and she has a cat Sassy Cat, and she and Sassy Cat have an IG stream where they wear hats. They take pictures with hats, matching hats.
Very nice.
That's their relationship. So in that shot, the cat's wearing a hat. And there's a shot, second shot with Lou Parker. She's a news anchor here in Los Angeles.
Oh, right. Oh.
And when I told her what the concept was, and it's too bad you don't have that shot. That's a fun shot. She said, "Oh, I have the perfect tie for him." And I'm like, I was going to say no, but the tie worked out great. And the image is called Breaking News, and you have
love
to
that.
believe it. It's hilarious. Yeah, the dog looks like Walter Cronkite with his tie, and
that's hilarious.
It's hilarious, yeah. But otherwise, no, I try not to dress them up, or it's like this photographer who does these gorgeous images of dogs with flowers all around, just beautiful images like that, and that's different. That's like art. That's like a totally different thing than I do.
I would say that your photography is art.
Yeah, thank you.
Like some of those, I'm sure that those pet owners, they're totally blowing that up, putting it on the wall.
Yeah, well, that's Norman Lear had a print of it done, and he has it hanging on the wall outside his home office. Adam Schiff had his printed and has it up in his home. A lot of them do. Do you have the one of Adrian Wilkinson with Tazo? She's meditating in a red dress.
Oh, let's find out. You'll see what I've got. So
I just
she's
wanted to show that
meditating.
all these different.
No, it doesn't look like I do.
Which ones do you have?
Let's see. I've got D and Vernon.
Vernon.
I've got,
that's a funny shot. Vernon Wells.
Patricia.
De Leon.
Let's see. I'll bring up the Vernon one. It is a good one. Yeah, Vernon is just watching him in movies, you would not expect him to just be the nicest gentleman. But
have you met him? Have you met?
Oh
Vernon?
Yeah.
Vernon is one of these people whose bread and butter is playing these despicable, sadistic, vile,
exactly,
the horrible characters, and yet personally in real life, he is a teddy bear, one of the kindest, most generous people I've met.
He's the best
guy, really great guy. And so I said, I think that the moment that I captured there, I wanted to incorporate a little bit of his snarliness. And so the original idea was just with Eddie, and that's the dog on the couch. But then the other one's totally deaf, but her nose works just fine. So she photobombed us, and of course that's the shot.
When you got him snarling and
that was the whole idea. Yeah.
I love it. He is still one of the hardest working actors out there.
Oh yeah, it's really scheduling him was impossible. It was like, what do you mean you have another movie? You just did a movie. He's constantly working. Working.
Busy man. Well, and I saw you had D. Wallace did the forward.
Yes, D. Wallace did my forward.
How'd that come about?
So she and I directed her in a play. We met because I directed her in a play when I was still directing. This is pre-BC. And when this came up, I reached out and I asked her if she would be interested in, of course, Dee being the walking loving heart that she is.
Yeah, talk about energy and kind of using that energy for good. Yeah.
We share a lot of similar philosophies about energy and manifesting, visualizing, and she calls it conscious creation, which is, I believe, that's exactly it.
I like that.
We create our reality.
Yeah.
And we talked about it earlier, where I say you can approach life by filtering it through your heart and open it to the wonders and the love and the generosity that exists out there, or you can choose to just focus on the hatred and the cruelty and and experience life that way. So she and I both choose column A, and so and when we did this, we started talking about the book and all of that stuff. And later on, I asked my publicist to reach out and ask her if she would do the foreword, because I felt her love, her experience of animal and love, and the animal's place in people's lives. Animals are there to remind us of love, to bring us to have us get over ourselves. You know, they don't care about the mortgage or the traffic, or, you know, they don't care about politics or anything like that. They care about you. And so when we come home to our pets, and we are faced with that face looking at us, it brings us to here. And that is why, you know, I felt she was the best. She got it. When she was looking at my pictures, we discussed this, and I said, that's what I want my forward to sound like. So I had my publicist reach out to her, and fortunately,
that's terrific. That's terrific. Was that Harlan?
Harlan, yeah. Harlan's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love Harlan. Whenever I have somebody that he represents, he calls me directly. We never do it by email. And the whole time, like we're talking, you can hear him typing.
Oh yeah. It's like and you can hear the emails going out. You can hear the emails coming in, and the typing going on. It's like, I was like, how many hands do you have, Harlan?
Yeah, it always cracks me up because he always calls. I know as soon as I send an email, I'm going to get a call from him.
Yeah.
Well, so what's next after this book? What are you working on next? Is the next book more pets? Is it something different?
So glad you asked. Yes, the thinking is that this is going to be a series. This particular book is sort of like a general introduction to my portraiture, but I would like to do, in good company, notable athletes with their pets, notable composers with their pets, notable architects with their pets.
I love that.
And you know, I don't know if there's going to be one for each category of endeavor out there, or will somehow the arts, you know,
maybe podcasters with their pets.
Yeah, I was going to say talk show hosts and podcasters, notable talk show hosts and podcasters, and absolutely. So that's the plan. But also, I really do want to release a book of my regular pet portraits. Like I don't know what to call them, non-notable, because I don't want it to sound like they're not special people. But all of these portraits are equally wonderful. It's not like they're more wonderful because they're notable people. They're. It
almost doesn't matter.
It almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I wish I could share some of those with you, because they're so. Here's the thing about it, and I don't know how to. I don't want to sound like false modesty or anything like that, but I'm so in the flow when I do this, and then I'm processing it, and then I finish the image, and then I'll look at the image, and I'm like, oh my God, who took this picture? It's so good, you know. And it's,
that's awesome.
It's an experience. It's very strange to have that experience about one's work. Usually we're very critical of it, and I've always been very critical of my work in the past, but with these, for some reason, I divine intervention. I don't know what else to call it.
Well, yeah, you'll just have to come back so that we can
anytime. Did you want to ask me about the charity?
Maybe. No, that was my next question. I was going to let you end on that. So it's Apex Protection Project.
So Apex Protection Project is a 501c3 charity, and they're devoted to rescuing and educating people about wolves and wolf dogs. And I chose them because it's almost like there's so many things that you could try and fix in the world, but if you could find the one thing that would have the greatest repercussions and have the greatest effect on the greater world and ecosystem, and wolves are that, then the most famous example of that is Yellowstone. They eradicated all their wolves, and the park began to die. the herd.
Wolves are kind of underappreciated and
They're
misunderstood.
maligned. They're, the big bad wolf. People are killing them into extinction. It's shocking the narrative that has been built around wolves when in fact they're not aggressive. They're incredibly shy creatures. Their family structure is remarkably like ours. And they serve this critical role in our nature and ecosystem and the health of our world. And so, to draw a parallel to my work, I feel that way about love. And so I felt that if there was one thing I could possibly do, one step that I could do as an individual that could have repercussions on the world at large, at greater, it's to remind people to come back to the heart, to give them a tool where they could look at these pictures and connect to that place and hopefully remember that place when they go out into the world, to bring more love into the world so that things are not as,
I love that. I think it's a very worthwhile charity. And I love that you pick them because you wouldn't expect that one. Right. I don't think. And that's a bad thing because we should be looking at those type of charities to help.
There are, I know almost every single project that I do, I always try and include some kind of aspect of service. I want to be of service. I feel immensely fortunate and very, very grateful. And I always try to find a way of expressing that gratitude some way. So when
it goes back to putting that positive energy back out in the world.
You have to. It's a choice. It's a daily choice, and it's hard. You turn on the TV and it grinds you down, and bad things happening, and earthquakes and floods, and so it is a conscious choice to witness all of this from a place of love instead of a place of panic and fear and all this sort of stuff. Because from fear, we're always trying to find an answer and blame somebody for the misfortune. Right. Whereas from love, it's like, how can I help fix this? How can I be of service? And it's a completely different approach to life. But when I was trying to find the right charity to support, there are so many. It felt to me it had to be animal related, and there are you start on Charity Watch because that's there are a lot of charities there.
That's right. That's right.
So you have to be careful where you put your support. But this one was brought to my attention, and I did a lot of research on them. I've met them. I've gone and hung out with the wolves, and that's nice. a whole other podcast. So call me back and we'll talk about wolves.
Okay.
But so that's why I chose them, and they're small. So the really big charities have built-in fundraisers, and they have all this, right. stuff in place. And I thought that this was a critical mission, and they needed my support. So go out and buy the book so I can help support this charity.
That's right. That's right. Well, okay. So that's a good way for us to wrap up. Let's go through that.
Okay.
Go back through your website and where we can find the book, and then where we can find you on social media.
Great. So, okay, let's see. I'm at johannasigmann.com. I've created a page where all the goings on with this book are happening. It's called Book. The link at the top is called Book, and it's going to have links to all of my media appearances and podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. And I'm going to have some book signings and stuff like that. So that will all be posted there. But I'm on Facebook at Johanna Siegmann Photography. I'm on Instagram as Supertographer. Let me see where else. I believe the publisher has a page on me, that's Brighton Publishing. And you can always reach me through my website at johannasigmann.com, or if people want to book me for more interviews, hint, hint, through Harlan.
Yeah, and they should, because it's fun getting to deal with Harlan, and then you're just terrific to interview.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying the process. even if I'm uncomfortable in front of the camera now, even though I spent 30 years trying to get in front of the camera, and then suddenly it was like, yeah, no, not anymore.
Yeah.
Age, you know.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm
So
dealing with those effects too.
yeah.
Well, Johanna, thank you so much. This has been terrific. I love it. I love the approach you have to photography. And to me, it really is very artistic. I think you're very blessed with that talent, and you have to come back.
Anytime. You just tell me, and I'll put on my little loom cube thing, and I get myself all set up.
I know. Ring lights. That's the way to go. You got to be on camera.
Yeah, I can't just hold something over here, and I have to get a little bit more professional for this, because when it comes to photography, I'm very professional.
Of course. But yeah, now that you're interviewing, you gotta have good lighting.
Yeah. Well, you were such a joy to talk to, so thank you for inviting me on.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, hold on one second. How much fun was that? If you're a pet lover, you absolutely have to get the book In Good Company. We showed you a few of the photos. Probably didn't do it as much justice as it deserves. Every photo in the book is amazing. So do yourself a favor, get that pre-ordered. It comes out on February the 20th. Johanna Siegmann. Johanna Siegmann. I get it right that time. She was terrific. Absolutely loved her. A lot of positive energy, and I could feel that. It's terrific. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you all so much for joining us again this week. Don't take that for granted. If you haven't done so yet, we could really use your help. If you could subscribe, if you're watching, it's YouTube MeisterCon Pod. If you're listening, just wherever you're listening to your podcast at, subscribe there. That'll help us as well. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.